Shakespeare once wrote, "What is in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name would smell as sweet." And yet, your name is a vibrational key to your spiritual essence. So, would a rose be a rose if we didn't call it a rose? We're going to talk about that in today's episode. Hi everyone, Therese here. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Before I get into today's really cool topic, I wanted to let you know that by the time you see this, it's probably October 6th. And if it is, today is the new moon spirit circle in Libra. So if you'd like to join me tonight, that would be 6 p.m. Pacific time, go to this link right here and sign up. You will get to be a part of the manifesting energy that's coming in this evening, as well as live psychic Q&A where you can ask me your questions and I can let you know what Spirit has to say. If you'd like to join us, go to this link. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get into today's topic. So today when I asked the team, what do you want to talk about? They brought up the topic of your name or names and the power of a name, that it actually signifies the amount of spiritual energy a being is holding. Now you might be thinking, whoa, not cool. I didn't choose my name. Somebody else chose it for me. Well, I personally believe that it actually is us who choose our name before we are born, that it is part of the soul contract that we create. I feel like the children whisper their names to the parents before they're born. And that was the experience I had having my own children, is I knew their names well before they were born. Now, this might be because I'm intuitive. It might be because I'm really determined. You could look at it either way. The point is, I really do feel like the name of the soul comes through psychically to the parents. So we do have an imprint. However, that isn't to say that once you get here, for whatever reason, you can't change your name. So I was looking in to a study of Tibetan text, and what's really interesting is that the Tibetans have a lot to say about your name, and they take names very seriously. It's not something that you say arbitrarily, your name. And the belief here is that your name, as it is right now, holds a certain spiritual quotient. And if these names aren't chosen intentionally, then you could actually be filling in this vessel with certain limitations placed on you, because the sounds in our name, they all have a vibratory meaning. And that's what we really learn when we dig into numerology, is that every letter has a corresponding number. Every sound has a corresponding color, right? So our names have to them a certain amount of expansion as well as a certain amount of limits. Now, when someone decides to join a Tibetan monastery, for example, many times the first thing they do is renounce the name that they were given at birth. And what this does is it ends the limitation of whatever was put upon that person vibrationally through the name. So they renounce the name, they go into service as a monk, and over time, they are given an intentional name by the master of the monastery. They receive their spiritual name. And yet, they are very careful when using this spiritual name, as it does activate a certain energy. Isn't that interesting? And it has to do with the sounds that we're making, right? And so if we look at language and phonics, they say that the vowel sounds are the sounds of the soul. They're open, right? So A, E, I, O, U, that lets in the energy. You can kind of feel it when you say it, like these let in a certain amount of vibrational force of light, where consonants are the sounds of matter. So the p, t, k, ch, you can hear it's closed and it's very matter driven. It's really interesting. I remember studying that in college. We were studying phonetic sounds and Shakespeare, which is why I brought Shakespeare into the intro of this video, because Shakespeare understood deeply the power of sounds, and you could actually tell the emotional state of a character based on how open their language was. So if a character was in a state of love, there'd be a lot of vowels and open sounds. Oh, right? Oh, where art thou, Romeo? You can hear it. Whereas if a character was in an angry state, there'd be a lot of a lot of closed letters or sounds. So it is really interesting. There is a connection here that our language is magical. It opens us or closes us off. Now I want you to think about you can think about actually any swear word, and you can hear if it opens you or closes you. You can think about any word that has light, right? Love. These open you up. So your name does the same thing. Your name can open you up, and it also has a potential to limit you. So in a spiritual tradition, people often change the name and make it more intentional and choose a name that's meaning and its sound resonates more fully with where the person is on their own spiritual journey. So I thought, just for fun, before I do the cards with you, I could teach you a little bit more about the energy coming through your name. And since I can't do every letter of the alphabet because we will be here forever, what I will do is talk to you about what the first vowel in your name is bringing forward for you. So the vowels and specifically the first vowel of the name. So as I said before, in spiritual and ancient cultures, they recognized that the vowels were sacred sounds. And the first vowel was most important because apparently that's when the soul enters the body. So the first time the mouth is open to receive, the soul enters the body. And specifically what we're looking at here is there are three things when looking at the name and the vowel structure of the name. So there are three things to look at when looking at the first vowel in your name. One is the meaning of the vowel itself. Two is how many times does that vowel repeat in the name, if at all. And three is what, if anything, precedes the vowel. So someone whose name is Olivia, obviously nothing precedes the vowel, whereas my name, Therese, T comes before the vowel sound. So an interesting note, if there is multiples of that vowel coming through a person's name, trying to think, so my name's Therese, that's 3 E's. So in spelling it's 3 E's, but Therese sort of sounds different. So it might be skewed by the sound. But usually if there's more than 2 of the repeating vowel in a name, it means there is an overabundance of a particular characteristic coming through that person, and they might experience in their life overwhelm or be out of balance in those characteristics. So we'll see when we get to the definitions. So next up, what I want to share with you are the 5 vowel sounds plus Y, because sometimes Y is used as a vowel, and their general meaning. So this is not locked in stone. There is more give or take here, but this gives you a general picture of the energy of the first vowel of your name. Okay, so if the first vowel of your name is A, then this is related to the number 1, which gives this person more bold, independent, and inquisitive energy. They're very interested in research. They want to know what you want and why you want it. So again, very inquisitive. If there is more than two A's in the name, if there are two A's in the name rather, you're a clear thinker. And if the name has more than two A's, so we're going into 3+, then this could lead towards egotism, as one is also, connected to ego. And when there's an abundance of one energy, it can tilt. Okay, if E is the first vowel in your name, E is connected to the number 5. So this is a very exciting number. It's a very eventful number. 5 is associated with freedom, change, excitement, the heart. There's a versatility and ability to learn easily with the letter E, but you can also be nervous and temperamental. It's true. And if there are more than 3 E's in your name, which I have, then you can be a little fickle, which is also true. It's true. If I is the first vowel in your name, that is connected to the number 9. Now this makes a very intuitive, artistic, or interested in the arts and sciences person. However, if there's too many I's, like 3 or more, then we're looking at someone who is prone to being shy, moody, and overly sensitive. If the first vowel in your name is an O, O is connected to the number 6. And if you have an O as the first vowel, then you are very frank, methodical, you believe in law and order and the system. If O is the first vowel and there are more than 3 O's, then you can be obstinate, slow, and monotonous. If U is the first vowel of your name, it's connected to a 3. And with this placement, you have a universal mind capable of great ideas and a broad viewpoint. You love to accumulate material things. Symbolically, the U is a cup shape. That's a good point. Therefore, you may become a collector. So U has a tendency to want to collect things and energy. If you have more than 3 U's, then you can experience loss and selfishness because the cup spills over in energy. If Y is the first vowel sound in your name, that resonates with the number 7. Now, Y is interesting because in Y's case, the meaning is very closely related to the vowel it sounds like. So, for example, my company, Blythe, Starlight, the I is the sound that the Y makes in my company's first name. So in Blythe's case, the Y sounds like an I, and therefore it resonates with intuition and the arts, which is really cool. But if the Y makes an E sound, then it would resonate with the excitement and the versatility and the nervous energy that comes with E. All right, so what if your name has 2 vowels together, a diphthong? What do? You take the essence of both and you blend it together. So, for example, if your name was Diane, IA, you would take both the intuitive and artistic scientific qualities and merge that with the independence, bold, and assertiveness of A. And so there you get your resonance answer. So I hope that was something that helped open your eyes. I found it fascinating to look into it, to see what important energy both the name has, which you can learn more about that through numerology. Your name is incredibly important actually with numerology, as it will tell you your life path number, your inner personality number, your outer personality number, and your destiny number. So much comes from that. And I love doing those kinds of readings. I just love getting in there and learning about all the combinations that we come up with as a soul. So nothing is arbitrary, right? And that's why I said earlier, would a rose actually be a rose if we didn't call it a rose? And let's look at that. Let's go back to O, right? Roses, notice how they have that complexity and pattern. And it's about this divine order. Now, a rose is a sacred symbol as it represents perfect beauty, like divine sacred beauty. And it has to do with structure. And I feel like the meditation about the rose is, as you meditate on a rose, you realize the perfect structure of the universe, that even though we can't see it, which appears to be chaos, the universe is actually in divine order, and the rose shows us this, and therefore the O in rose opens that flower up to that energy. So even though it may smell just as beautiful, if we called it a hydrangea, it wouldn't have the same kind of open, ordered, divine energy as it does being called a rose. All right, let's move on and do some karma cards. So for those who are new to karma cards, let me quickly tell you how they work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team in spirit, what message do you want me to share this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, one in red for action and another set in blue for outcome. And the way that you play is you tune in intuitively and decide what is it you need right now for the next week. Do you need action-related answers or outcome-related answers? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you're doing that, let me tell you the timing of this reading. So this reading is for October 6th through October 13th. And the flavor of this reading, we have the moon, which is talking about our emotional state, in Virgo, which we just left Virgo. We're in Libra now. But that practical, planning, analytical energy in the 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio. And the 8th house is like life, what is it? Like life, death, taxes, or life, sex, taxes. It's about shared and intimate experiences, including the mysteries of life that we can't seem to know, like what is beyond this life or beyond this moment. All right. So for those who are choosing action-related answers, your spiritual action at this time is to defend the serving of others as a life or death issue. Wow, that doesn't sound subtle. I mean, like, come on. Defend the serving of others as a life or death issue. So the serving of others, the positive polarity as a life or death issue, now or never. We're in a time period where things are falling apart. And if you understand that things have to fall apart so better things can come forward, I think that the people who are holding that and understanding that, they have more of a grounded sense and they don't lose hope and they don't get as reactive. There are people who are watching what's happening in the world all around, all the subjects, and it's a hot, hot mess. And they're letting it pull their own frequency down. So the serving of others is the positive polarity. And that polarity, when you raise your frequency, you go positive. You can't help it. When your frequency lowers, you neutralize yourself, especially if you're naturally positively oriented. If you are service to others oriented, you don't go negative, you neutralize. Right? But that also makes you feel powerless. So the neutral ground is powerless. There's no power lever in the middle of the spectrum. The power is in the positive or the negative. The middle neutralizes itself. So I feel when positive people, those who are service to others, allow themselves to get bogged down in energy, maybe they're feeling too reactive. Maybe they've stopped trusting stuff. Maybe their faith is getting tested too much and it brings them down. They've neutralized themselves and they move into that place of feeling powerless. Well, I have no power here. And I would say I agree and I disagree. I agree you have no power when you feel neutralized. And I disagree because you do have power, but it takes moving your energy. And that means that you're going to have to, for now, at least for this week, fight it. fight the urge to react, fight the urge to get consumed by the plot line, by the stories going on, and rather ground in yourself, ground in what you're here to do, because that's where the power is. So if you're here to be of service to others, that's not being of saving of others. Service and saving, not the same thing. So if you're trying to save others, that could also drag you down to that neutralized place. No, if you're here for serving of others, then you will understand that the universe is bringing opportunities for service to you. Something will be put in front of you that you will have that recognition of, like, I can help here if you can, right? If it's available and if another wants it, because it has to be reciprocal. We can't force our will on others. We all have free will. So there might be this feeling of heaviness and just this recognition of, right, where's my energy going and what am I allowing that to make me feel, act, or do? Your mental action at this time: accept the details of getting and using power. That's an interesting one. It's almost like the opposite statement. Accept the details of getting and using power. So it actually does piggyback off the last statement, because I said the levers of power are at the extremes of polarity, not in the middle. Maybe that's what you need to accept, that if you want to feel powerful, you're going to have to polarize. And moving out of the middle ground is actually the easiest place, even though it's neutralized and you don't really have a lot of active power to work with in the middle. The berth is wider. There's a lot of wiggle room in the middle. However, it's not very effective. And I do believe, if you're listening to this, you did come here to be effective, which means you're going to have to move to where the power levers are. So understand that the higher you go in frequency does not mean the easier life gets. And that one, maybe you need to move through some emotions about it. I know when I first grokked it, I was like, oh, that's not cool. That feels like a trick. But you have to understand that the path narrows in either direction. So there is less wiggle room. It's like when you know what your integrity is, when you know what's right, there's not a lot of wiggle room there, right? You're either in alignment with yourself or you're not. And that's why the path narrows. Do not let that take you down back to neutral town. You can do it. You can do it. Physical action. Let your feelings tell you how to do what you must do, and use other people's resources. All right, so we are being guided by our feelings. Remember, your feelings are your GPS system. Feelings aren't necessarily the truth about a situation, but they do tell you where your frequency is. So obviously, negative feelings, low frequency. Neutralized feelings like powerlessness, that's in the middle. Higher feeling state, you're vibrating higher. So let your feelings tell you what you need to do. If you feel like your energy is going low, you got to make a choice about that. Either I choose to stay here because screw it, I'm not doing anything, or I desire to move my frequency up. Use other people's resources. I feel like this is directly talking about all the amazing resources that are out there for free that can help you raise your frequency. You probably know where they are. You probably have them on your phone, are subscribed to their channel, have the book, the journal, the thing. That's the other resources you're meant to use. When you're having a hard time raising yourself up out of it, I know for me, sometimes when I love to use tapping, and sometimes I can tap on what I need to tap on for myself and it works. And then there are other times where I'm like, I need help. I am not saying helpful things to myself right now, and I need the guidance of someone else. So those are the kind of resources I see them speaking of here. All right, let's go look at the outcome. So for those choosing outcome in the moon in Virgo in the 8th house of mystery, Your spiritual outcome at this time is the nurturing of methods for the healing power of personal power. Wow, do you hear this reading? It's all about your power. It wants you to step back into your power. It wants you to understand that whatever creates a feeling of disempowerment can be healed, and trust the sliding scale of your life. What I mean by that is, okay, you're not always hanging out in your highest self. You're not always hanging out in your power zone. Sometimes you slide back to neutral. Sometimes you go negative. Trust the whole process. It's trying to give you information. It's trying to let you know something. It might be telling you, hey, back off of this. It's not serving your highest good. I love using that thought, actually, especially around internal thoughts, because maybe it's not the outside world you're contending with so much, but rather the inner state. And that makes sense because we're in this really big retrograde window with all these planets in retrograde. So a lot of internal focus comes in. And a statement I love to use is, how is this thought serving my highest good? Especially if it's like, oh, you always mess up on talking on camera. Well, that doesn't serve me. Having that thought, whether I feel it's accurate or not, it doesn't serve me because it shuts down my energy. So I know that that is not something that is going to help me through this process of talking to you on camera. And that a better thought would be, why am I here? Why have I shown up? And that would be for you to be able to inspire you, to empower you, to uplift you, right? So we want to recognize that nobody's holding a frequency and just right there. If you were, you'd be in a whole other dimension, baby. So if you find yourself sliding around, that is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of lack of ability. All it's saying is, hey, something down here is trying to teach you something. Maybe let that go. Maybe change this thought. Maybe rely on other people's resources, right? Maybe take a break. All of it is nurturing and healing. Those are the two words, nurturing, healing, and then power of personal power. That's what we're looking at right here. Mental outcome at this time. Feelings caused by analysis of the mysteries of life. Such a vague statement. Feelings caused by the analyzing of the mysteries of life. So, a mystery is just that. It's a mystery. You're not going to get the answer. If you're hell-bent on an outcome or an answer at this time, you're going to probably have feelings that aren't so fun because it's bigger than what this experience can understand. Rather than, trying to overanalyze in it would be to move into a being state where you just allow and you are with it. However, what they're saying right now is that there is going to be some overthinking this week. There is going to be feelings in reaction to your overthinking. And perhaps you're trying to understand the workings of something huge, like how does source operate? Why is that okay? I hear people ask that a lot. Why would God allow this? It's bigger than we can understand. The picture is more complex and interesting and intricate than what we can see at this level. And sometimes analyzing a situation causes that analysis paralysis, which can be neutralizing. So rather than trying to overthink it, see if you can move into your being state where you're in an allowing state. Physical outcome at this time, reactions resulting from the perfection of a major change. So I do feel October holds big change energy. It's hard to say what's going to happen. And when you try to look at timelines, you can see a lot of different things. And it depends on what you're vibrating with the most. And even in my last podcast episode, I talked about this, that all timelines will play out. However, you will not be consciously aware of every single timeline. Where you're vibrating is what you experience. So there is major change coming. Even just if we look at the planets, The planets in October, all these retrograding planets start to move direct again. And when that happens, it means their energy that was being focused inward starts directing outward, which does indicate some kind of major change coming. So it says reactions. Now, I love this is from the moon. We're going to run a gamut here. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes on, that comes out, that's going to create a lot of energy, and not everyone's going to react the same to everything that is experienced. But it is trust whatever you get, right? We're, as people who are on a spiritual journey, we're always trying to move out of reaction and into response. So notice if that's important to you right now, that you'd rather respond than react, which means to respond is to actually sort of remove yourself from the direct situation. Instead of being the actor in the play, be the audience member watching the play, right? That would allow you to respond. Reactions, that comes from putting yourself directly in the play. The character has a reaction. The audience member has a response. So when they say reactions, I feel like it just means that we've really, we're emotionally heightened, which also means that it's harder to be responsive. And when we're in that emotional place, we have knee-jerk reactions. We react before we can process what was that, right? Don't worry about that. I feel like if that happens, know that you can always turn around and be like, wow, I really had a strong reaction to that. I felt really triggered or whatever from that. And then you can start to respond or contemplate, right? So whatever's coming up, just know there's perfection in it. It's part of a bigger plan. A bigger plan that unfortunately we're trying to analyze and can't fully see. And that, I think, is causing people to fluctuate between trust and doubt, because they want to see the whole plan. They want to see the biggest picture, and it's not possible right now. There's something operating here. You know, we're moving in such big circles of energy right now, cosmically. The cosmic clock is ticking in that way, where we're on the precipice of the full new era coming through, new earth. The golden age is dawning. It's like it's already started to click the grand wheels into place. And there is a strong desire to want to see how it works. And there's a frustration that at this level we can't. Although, if you go into your heart space, if you allow yourself to just be, you might not be able to see or even understand the plan, but you can feel it. And that's where we need to return to when the emotions start to unstabilize us. So with that, I hope that you feel grounded. I hope you know how to get grounded. Remember to use those resources that help you stay grounded and high vibrational. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Mwah. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.